Hey, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. This is, let's see, course number 3, um, HUMINT Intelligence Advanced 2. Now, what you're seeing is a PDF of my slideshow because somehow I've lost my slideshow because I've had to put this on quite a few times on Udemy and it wouldn't accept it. So that also means that at the end of this, there's going to be a clip from Spy Game on YouTube just to expand it out so it goes on. Because this is an introduction that's not very long, it was a challenge for to get it uploaded on the course. However, despite my limitations in technology, I'm still as good as ever on the HUMINT side, and I welcome you to a slightly more advanced course. I'm going to go through what we've covered previously, just in case you haven't done the previous 2 courses, and it's not a necessity. It may be useful to understand some of the things I'm talking about, but you definitely don't have to. And also explain what we're going to cover in this course. And I have, let's see, 2 more courses planned after that, where we actually get more into the nitty-gritty of what is called the mechanics of meeting. Now, these mechanics nowadays can be online, which is sometimes just as challenging. But of course, we're also looking at face-to-face, which is why I'm showing you that clip of the video at the end. Part of the reason why I'm showing you a clip of the video at the end. So here we go. We're going to look at the recap. Now, this is my PDF, so it looks slightly different. Previous courses, we've done human intelligence and the introduction. We looked at talent spotting, i.e. recruiting the right type of source to make sure that your information requirements are answered. We've looked at interview techniques and strategies, which is extremely important. And I do say that almost every single time because each component part is extremely important. But it's putting it all together on the HUMINT application that makes it highly, highly important. And that's where the use comes in. We looked at rapport and nonverbal communications, body systems analysis, night accessing cues, and then we went on to what I called advanced 1, with the access, motivation, point of contact, capability, the AMPOC. Looked at welfare, which is extremely, I need to find another word for important, extremely valuable. If you don't deal with the source's welfare issues, even if you're just dealing with a source online who is working and gathering information for you on the other side of the world, you still have to deal with welfare. And one of the recent challenges that I've had, that I had to manage almost on a daily basis, was actually getting payment to these sources. Obviously, they may do the first job and then you pay them. If you don't pay them, they won't work for you anymore. A simple business transaction. But there are certain legal and functional difficulties with sending money around the world. Now, it's easy-ish, or a lot more easier now than it used to be to send money around the world. But there are lots of legal constraints. So you have to be very careful that you're not sending money to someone on a blacklist, for instance, a terrorist blacklist or a criminal blacklist. And there's lots of those blacklists around. They range from the US, UN, EU, pretty much every other country around the world. And if you inadvertently send money to someone who's on one of those lists that you've never even heard of before, you could be getting yourself into trouble. So there is a certain amount of due diligence you have to do. And if you're in the intelligence community, that will be part and parcel of your standard operating procedures. If you're doing it for a commercial or business venture that hasn't got such in-depth policies and procedures or your experiences, then you've got to watch out very carefully. So that's why welfare is very critical. So it's the payments, it's their problems, their issues. They may not be able to get you the information in the time that you wanted it or you'd aggrieved on it. And that is a big part of dealing with sources, both online and face-to-face. Task and training, your sources may be in the right place. They may have the right access. They may not know how to take video of a route, for instance. They may not know how to take photographs. They may not have the right equipment. They may not have a smartphone to do it. And I know it's a challenge to appreciate that in sort of developed countries, but in your more undeveloped countries where a lot of this work may be carried out, they may not have access or the money to buy the equipment that you find as typical on a day-to-day basis. And we also look finally at surveillance awareness, because criminals, terrorists, government organizations usually use surveillance to as a precursor to carrying out attacks or to carrying out arrests. Or it's always very good for our sources to be able to appreciate who is out there as a risk and a threat, and who is watching. Because it's up to us to, as much as possible, to be able to train and task these sources to be able to look after themselves, and to be able to, when they're out working, maybe in some risky areas or some risky routes, that they're aware that of some of the techniques that surveillance operators or even criminals and terrorists and government agencies use to watch them. So it's part of the tasking and training phase, but it's also good sort of best practice to make them aware. So to look forward, our next course is Human Intelligence Advanced 3. Maybe I should have renamed these slightly less cumbersome. Human Intelligence Advanced 4. So we're now on Human Intelligence Advanced 2. So 3 is the start of the mechanics. So we're starting to look at Human Security Management 2, which is what we're going to be looking at. We'll start that in the next lesson. We're going to look at co-handling. So you and someone else. There's lots of best practice reasons for that, and I'll be explaining that. So intelligence services stems on from the surveillance awareness, but there's, in some of the areas you may be working, there may be police and or intelligence services who you could bump into, or your sources could bump into, or they're interested in the information. There's lots of reasons to be aware of the different intelligence services, and they may well be hostile. So it's something to bear in mind. Meeting security, the security of a meet, face-to-face, but also online. Operational sequence, human terrain analysis is something we're going to look at in course 3, course 4. Communications. So now we're looking at mechanics, getting on the ground and meeting people. So you have to be able to communicate, because it's more than just you going to a cafe to meet a source. It could be that you and your co-handler are going to a cafe to meet a source, and outside you've got a security team. So we're going to start discussing that, the tactics, the planning, and how do you give your orders and instructions to your team to make sure that the source stays safe, but also that you, your co-handler, and your team stay safe. Meeting dynamics, what is the process from start to finish of the meeting? The walk-in, someone approaches you, even online, and says, I have information, the risks and the benefits. And we're going to look at a bit more detail in iAccess EQ Advanced. And I said there was 2 more courses, but of course there's actually 3 more courses. Advanced 5. We're going to look at, in more detail, the reconnaissance, the fixed point meet. So that's the cafe I spoke to. The source is sitting in there. You go in, you debrief the source leaves, then you leave, and everyone's happy. Is a fixed point meet. The foot mobile meet. So it may be that the source is walking along a route. You've pre-recce'd or reconned. You drive along that route. You make sure it's clear, make sure the area is secure. You pick the source up, take them to a debriefing location, debrief them, then drop them off at a separate location. So all those mechanics of meeting a source face-to-face is discussed in Advanced 5. It'll take me a little time to get through that. So this one, the one we're interested in at the moment, Advanced 2, is we're going to cover human security management. Now that's valuable because it shows you how we can apply human intelligence in the commercial world, and that's useful. And security managers aren't always intelligence managers, or don't always have the experience in intelligence. And intelligence is very valuable to security management, because you have to be able to understand the threats before you can build your security model. And HUMINT is part of that intelligence gathering in most instances. If you've got access to the local criminal group, then you can detect and deter criminal activity a lot quicker. So there are lots of links between intelligence and security. Looking at HUMINT reports, I've got some very detailed and very there were live reports. We're going to go into those, how to develop your cases, your sources, and your information requirements further. A cold call is pretty much going knocking on someone's door and saying, "Hey, can you get me this information?" But not that simple, obviously. Disengagements and recontacts. This is useful because a disengagement is where the source has run out of steam, or it's run out, or he or she has run out of access to the information. It may be they have to move away, or their job has changed, whatever the reason. So you disengage them because they're no longer providing the information that you need. If you do that incorrectly, then a year down the line, for instance, when they actually have good access or better access to something else, they will not work for you. It's very much like a relationship. In fact, it is a relationship. So you have to disengage properly and professionally so that in the future, when and if you want to recontact them, they will give it some thought and hopefully say yes. And that happens. You can disengage them for a while and then recontact them when their capability improves, when they move back to certain areas, they have a different job, they have access, or your information requirement changes so that they now have access to information that you want. If at some time you piss them off during the disengagement and you know they have information in the future, they could give you the finger. And that'd be very embarrassing, but also bad professionally because you no longer have access to that information. So it's a very careful process. We'll look at drill down a little bit more into information requirements. This is the direction phase of the intelligence cycle that we've discussed previously. So this is important to get right and not forget at all. There's no point collecting, collating, analyzing information that you don't actually need and the client's not going to pay for. There may be some benefit in the future, may enhance report writing, but if your focus is and you're getting paid to do or answer information requirements, then that should be your focus. Anything else is additional and it may be unnecessary. So you've got to be able to focus down on what your direction is from the client. If the client gives you poor direction, then you have to improve on that and you have to make sure that the information you provide the client is happy with, otherwise they'll stop paying you. And we're going to look at some collation system. So that's pretty much the introduction. I'm going to show you this video that's of interest. The film's good. I enjoyed it when it came out. It must be quite a while ago now, but it touches on some very key HUMINT points. But like I said, the reason I'm showing it is more to expand the size of this video so that it will upload onto Udemy. But I do like this clip. This is the one on YouTube. You better watch it yourselves or you can continue watching this. As always, thanks for your time.
Technology gets better every day, that's fine. Most of the time, all you need is a stick of gum, a pocket knife, and a smile. Good morning, my name. Today we're going to be discussing a radio set. Not just any radio set, but a Russian radio set. Every building, every room, every situation, a snapshot. I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm also checking the room, memorizing the people, what they're wearing. Then I ask the question, what's wrong with this picture? Anything suspect? You gotta see it, assess it, and dismiss most of it without looking, without thinking. Without thinking. It's just like breathing. You breathe, though. Always carry cigarettes and a lighter, too. Great icebreaker. And a cup, baby. Right. Okay, I want you to listen, but I want your concentration to be on something different. Anything else so you don't react. Understand? Yes. So when do I get my first assignment? When I decide you're ready. What is your name? Michael Sando. A suit in the kitchen. Threat? Wait, how'd you see that? Ah. See that apartment building? Yeah. Know anyone who lives there? Well, within 5 minutes, I want to see you standing in one of those balconies. Come on. Did you serve in Vietnam? No, I did not. Favorite color? I would discuss silver coffee. Just lost 10 seconds. Enlisted information from someone. Gladly. Show me your guy reading the menu. Don't look at him. Wasn't reading the menu. Not reading at all. Fred? Only to the hostess. You just give her 4 pieces of personal information for one dubious, impersonal fact. Just trying to find out where she got that dress. Where are you from? When's your birthday? Come on, you know everything about me. I don't know a thing about you. Okay, what did you tell her? 1, you're straight. 2, you're engaged. 3, tomorrow's your girl's birthday. And 4, you have no taste in women's fashion. What if she were an asset? You told her 4 lies that now have to be true. Okay.